Sigong, and welcome to my channel on Bagua Kuntao Silat. This is the second poem in section 1 of the 8 poems of the 64 poem system in Bagua Kuntao Silat. I know that's a mouthful, but if you've seen my previous video, you saw me release the form in its basic function where it commences and we do this. Now we're going to talk about the piercing poem usage, especially with regard to how after you've made this movement and now it's like this. So you have a piercing palm which your thumb is beside your connected fingers and you're making contact with this area. You stack up your skeleton and joints directly behind here, so the pushing of your rear leg, the torquing and rotation of your joints, waist, shoulders stacks up behind the contact point of your piercing hand. This is a pressing palm underneath, guarding the elbow and protecting your center, as well as other areas and creating a structure. Elbows are down in both arms, and this is a torquing movement that extends and can be used for many, many things. However, empty hand at the basic level again that I'm going to show is self-defense applications. One of them, like we mentioned before, if he grabs me, he grabs this arm again, you may not have time or you may not be thinking about the previous self-defense app, but what you can have here is immediately he grabs me and I go into piercing palm, pressing palm here. I'm just going to ignore this and he's going to jerk me forward. I'm going to go with it and go right into his eye. The target for piercing palm is going to be the soft areas, of course, because we may damage our fingers. They're still small bones. But if you're stacked properly, much like an egg, when you exert pressure on it, your structure is going to hold yourself together. It's going to be surprising what pressure they can take when you're properly aligned. That's what your form helps you do, to stay properly aligned. So if he grabs, I can hit him in the eye, which you affect from the outside in, the eye may pop out. If you go from the inside out, the eye will be pushed back deeper into the skull, hurt tremendously, and fingernails will scratch the cornea. Remember, this is true self-defense. This is not if you're angry at somebody. Also, the throat, the junction of the jawbone to the neck, the side of the neck, the solar plexus, the armpit, the navel. It's a hole there, right between your abdominis rectus. When you're properly stacked and your center is moving your weight, a tremendous amount of force goes through and hits a very small area. Quite painful and destructive. Also, of course, you're dropping your weight again, straight to the groin, and the inner thigh. The femoral artery comes up in between the knee and the groin, and between the top of the quad and the back of the hamstring. You can see here just a little bit of force, and he moves. Not much at all. It's deceptive, and if some strange reason, if I'm doing this and I see a punch coming, I can hit between his brachial, and he's smiling because it doesn't feel good. And also, I'm always moving with my center, so it's not just me poking him, it's my whole body pressing against that nerve, and it hurts, I apologize. But when you hit this, and I'm changing his entire shoulder structure to be ready for the next one, which we discussed here, and I'm pressing, and it's another spear, or piercing hand to the eye. But that is a soft area, so we can strike here, and you feel it again. I'm sorry, I know it hurts. But also, if the other hand comes, you hit there, and again, I'm properly stacked. So he's going to feel that. It's like he's just running his arm into the corner of a heavy, full bookcase, and you just feel that piercing right there on the nerve. It's hard to convey this over video, but if you do your practice and you practice a little bit, please, you can see that you can generate tremendous force, and it culminates in a very small area, which has that piercing effect that we discussed. And again, your wrist stays straight, all your bones are aligned, and your entire body is aligned. What you're trying to do, and this is an internal movement at its basic level, is drive the ground, use the ground to drive your skeleton through your opponent. So you are a nail, and you're creating your own movement to make the ground act like a hammer to drive your skeleton through your opponent. Instead of just your shoulder or just your shoulder and waist throwing your fist through somebody. It's your entire body moving properly for a very small end area, using the ground as the brace and the force that your center moves, because it's pushing against your feet, the bottom of your feet, and also creating that ground path and push against the end of your fingertips through your opponent. And you can see you can practice it very slowly and easy at first because you're not conditioned. You have to condition yourself. Is you're going into piercing palm and piercing palm, piercing palm, and you see same side, just like in the form. Other side, piercing palm, piercing palm, piercing palm, and you can feel it. You can feel the strikes. But also, part of those piercing palms that were shown in the form is the threading. Very important. That's where we're dominating center line or a specific line of movement, so we can move and just completely dominate the target or the opponent, so they have no way to effectively counter in that split second of movement. And we're driving a great amount of force into a small area into targets on the opponent. And as you can see in the form, the beginning part, we're sunk, piercing palm, pressing palm. Then we're threading, rubbing our forearms against each other. That pressing palm begins a piercing palm, and we're coming out. And then it's threading again. And you can see that's the movement we want when we're affecting here. This also allows us to use different techniques. You're working on principles. You're keeping your weight low, moving completely into the target, taking up their space, disrupting their balance, stealing their balance and their space, and destroying their structure, all from just these movements. If you're properly aligned and moving properly and utilizing your own energy and movement accordingly. That torquing movement, when you come here and it's twisting forward from the center end out and using our fingers to support each other while we're aligning with our skeleton, entering into that eye. You can also enter into the throat, to the juncture of the jawbone and the neck. It could have also entered into here, his armpit, where he comes out just outside. I'm gaining at least 6 inches, no matter how small you are, into over his range. So we can stay outside, affect that movement, run away, just to get it off of him. This is self-defense. We're not trying to fight yet. But sometimes self-defense requires you to fight very briefly, to dominate, overwhelm your opponent, and get out of the area. That's what we train for. So if that happens with him, he comes in, and you can see here, the other punch is coming, and you can see I'm coming here into his neck. And I'm using this pressing palm to disrupt his balance, torque his body, and he can feel my weight. You can feel my weight. It's not simply a pack. If I'm in close like this, I want to be able to move him and affect his weight. That way, he can't easily counter. He's fighting me, the ground, and himself, his balance. Also, you can see here, just barely, I have the ability, once I'm here, grasping palm, and a throw. But that's not basic level. This is basic level. So I just want to show you these movements as we go inside. Now, that was on the inside. On the outside, if you're up for whatever reason, he throws a jab, boom, and we can see here, and then this goes to pressing palm, and that goes to spearing palm, where it becomes a trap. Boom, inside, and you can see I'm always moving in or moving over, depending upon what I want to do. When I have him on his back foot, and I'm spearing him, I have this movement. That allows me to run away. Unless I'm going to deliver more damage to him because he can run faster than me, then I can follow up with another technique and then run away. Depends on what I do. But initially, he's going to affect spearing palm, and you can see the torquing inside, spearing palm. Or he's jabbing cross, spear, spear, and you can see him guarding. If this comes around again, just like we did, we stay inside, I'm going to completely dominate. It's short. I have the center line, so I'm going to effectively move quicker than him, dominate his space, keep him off balance. If we have the outside, that's how we can use our pressing palm into a trap. Now, the trap is not going to be a simple slap. The trap is going to affect his entire structure. I'm right-hand dominant, and this is ultimately a weapons-based system with a plethora of empty hand movements, and can be used either way. But the idea, he grabs, I'll show it right side, he grabs left side. You can see here I'm just going to let him go with me. Step on his foot, allow him, and just go with it to piercing palm into his throat. That is one of our things, and it happens very easily. No matter how strong he is, I'm using his own strength and power against him. So if he grabs and pulls, I just go with it and sorry about that. You can feel it. And use that against him, it works. And I'm keeping the pressing hand out of the way simply so you can see it. Normally, I would go ahead and do that. But remember what we said, when we get to that movement, we still have pressing hand here, we still have this movement. He's going to come with that. If we take him off, and we can headbutt right away, as in our first form. The piercing palm is something you need to play with and practice so you learn how to use it against a resisting opponent. Allow them to box with you or throw punches, and you can see how that can be utilized. It's hard for me to convey this on video, which is why I'm only showing certain scenarios and situations. But you need to practice this. You can practice a movement on your own, as from the form of what I've shown you, making sure you keep everything straight, and you're doing the forearm rubbing while we're going through the movements. And as you notice later on, I'm doing it on the opposite side, but in the beginning you should practice in conjunction with your footwork so that it's easier for your mind to get used to stacking your skeleton and using your joints in the proper manner for internal power. Later on, you can go opposite, which I'll show later in the form and in the system. You can switch hand sides, do whatever you want. But this is the beginning, the very beginning of the system and how you should use it. We engage the entire body with the opponent, just like if you were grappling and rolling around the ground, you'd be utilizing every limb and your body at the same time to affect a certain technique. We do the same thing when we're standing up. We're engaging the entire target from the ground up with our entire body from the ground up and using our body in the most efficient manner possible with the strategy and tactics that we've established with my system. So before, I didn't want to show too much of the footwork because this is a basic video and we're just learning how to do the applications. However, my mind just won't allow me to neglect to point out that the footwork is always important. And even though we're focusing on particular upper body movements and making sure that our body is properly structured and we've established ground path, that's the most important thing at this level. Still, I want to make sure that you're aware that you're taking up space in your feet, knees, and hips in relation to your opponent's feet, knees, and hips at all time. Naturally, when we use our motion and we're doing this, we're affecting our spine as we do the spear hand technique. So I say piercing palm, it's also called a spear hand technique, but in this system, it's piercing palm. The center affects the movement, but it pushes against the ground to rebound, come back through, move up through my spine, waist, pelvis, shoulders, throughout here, and ultimately but notice my foot moves. Well, my foot also engages the opponent. So if he comes and that jab comes, you can see here, I'm here. Once I'm here and the pressing palm pushes this in, immediately I'm gonna go to that. Then say, but what if he moves? Now, I slowed it down so you can see what we're doing. I know what I'm doing. He knows what he's doing. Most people aren't going to be aware of that or even thinking of it. What they're going to be thinking about is throwing punches. So if he throws that lead jab and I hit her like this and I'm on the outside, and again, I'm hindered like this, he thinks about throwing it with a punch. Yeah. All I have to do is same thing. And that goes from this movement. All I used was that movement.
To be clear, I would have eaten bricks.
Yeah, I held him up. I just started and immediately started holding him up because I wanted to pull his center into the ground face first for him. And like I said, it's difficult to show over video, but the only way you can do that is when we're moving forward, we take up his space. We off-put his balance and break down his structure. We do that from the very beginning with every movement in Bagua Kuntao Silat. So again, you see that he comes to throw a punch, and I'm entering here. I can push and quickly do a foot sweep to affect him. Again, he feels that, he's going to back off, or even better, It works better when your opponent's aggressive. This system works better when your opponent is coming. And it just wants to take you. Everything we do works so much better. But it still works if the person's not as aggressive as me to. It gives us time to relax and enjoy the show as opposed to having to inflict damage on the opponent so that we can get away and defend ourselves. But the more he wants to come, bring his energy, the more energy I get to play with. And this is the beginning of the system. So no, even though I didn't show it on earlier, that when we engage, we're always thinking about the feet, every technique that we do. And we're always engaging their feet, legs, lower body as well, and using it to our advantage. At the same time while we're doing our upper body. Please don't forget it.
And relaxing with it. It can be applied to so many things, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's why it's one of the first things I show in the system. It's super, super versatile, extremely powerful, deceptively quick, and useful. It also allows you, it's a building block for other movements in the system. More often than not, when in doubt, piercing palm. You can use that for so many different things. However, striking palm also super versatile. They all are once you understand it, but piercing palm is a building block, just like the previous palm that I showed you. Very versatile. It helps you get ready and use everything. One of the things that you'll see in this system is they all work together. They all support each other. They work in conjunction. But the way I teach the system is each one is layered to help you do the next thing, and it allows you to for the entire time. You keep gaining experience, knowledge, and ability the more you keep moving along. Anything else you wanted to share with them?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
Just maybe how easily it can be used for anything.
Right. Just relax. That's why I did. That's why the basic form is the way it is. It's done in a relaxed manner where you're not bound up tight. You're not under tension trying to strain through it at all. There are many other ways to do it. I have 4 other major ways to do that form, which I'm going to show later. That was the basic way. And these are all basic applications. There are many, many more applications you can use. I'm just showing you most of the upper body stuff, except for how to generate power in the lower body, which is why you have this angle. But honestly, very quickly you're going to see how to use legs, and because we fight with the whole body, upper and lower body art. It's not just that. We're using our feet right now to drive forward and take up space, because that's what I want to impart to you now. But really, that's just the very first thing. That's the introductory thing. Later on, you will always use your footwork to attack the opponent as well and defend yourself. And that's why we only attack in order to be able to defend ourselves and what we hold dear. Not just because we can. Because if we can, I can do a lot of things because I can. But this is simply in order to be able to take care of yourself and those that you love. Thanks for watching Bagua Kuntao Silat, palm number 2 in section 1 of the 64 palms form of Bagua Kuntao Silat. Like and subscribe. Please go to my website, www.popsigong.com. That's POPSSIGUNG.com. Go to my forum and talk about it. Be happy to talk to anyone. Thanks. Take care.